All right, how is it going, my magnificent sons of bitches all over the interweb? We are here live on my Prodigal Hill channel that is on YouTube, my Michael Polston account, which is Facebook, and of course, once again, here on the Twitterverse, which is Superboy Prime. I got my buddy here, Stephen Rose. His channel is in the comments. You can go ahead and look in the descriptions. His channel's in there. You can go ahead and check him out on his channel. And we're going to talk about topics, some of the topics that you talk about too. So, on his channel, he talks about a wide variety of topics, just like me. He does a lot in sports, stuff like that. So, if you're into sports, he's another good channel you want to go ahead and follow. But with that being said, and I know that this is one of the things that you like about, my channel personally, is talking about, basically the way that history is taught. We're really at the end of the day, fucking science isn't any better than history is. They fucking dilute the shit out of that. Everybody pretends like this Stephen Hawking's motherfucker and fucking Stephen Hawking's is like some sort of genius. But can the motherfucker wipe his own ass? I don't think so. So maybe the motherfucker would know everything in the universe. Facts. But with that being said, it's absolutely atrocious how history is taught. And, it's definitely biased. And, of course, those people who basically leech off of history and, suckle off the government teat tend to go ahead and exaggerate history as it was. So me and some wanted to come out here and set you straight on history a little bit. Some of the misconceptions of who you think are really great presidents were really, in fact, really shitty presidents. And the ones that you think are really shitty presidents are actually pretty great presidents that you should be thankful for. So I'll go ahead and let Stephen Rose come in and say something. I'll go ahead and hand the mic off to Stephen Rose real quick.
Oh, yeah. I just want to say, Prodigal Hill, thank you for having me on. I think you had a great discussion in one of your previous streams, probably about a couple of weeks back in regards to why we're doing the video today. You talked about the history of the presidents from leading up to the 60s all the way up until, the current administration. So I thought, maybe that's what we're going to dig into a little bit today. And like I said, I'm learning from your channel as I go on. I actually consider myself an anti-federalist, just like you. I actually have criticized and questioned a lot of our politicians, also including Donald Trump. You made a lot of valid points as to the reason as to why you question about even consider voting him in. I absolutely feel the same way. The history of Abraham Lincoln or whatnot. I feel the same way about him as well, and the misconceptions about the Civil War and all that, and the lies that were spread about what we were going to war for versus what was actually the reason. Like, in other words, they say it's slavery, but it was actually more of the 60% tariff tax. That was the reason why we went to war. Sort of similar to what you were seeing during Obama's inflation, where we were taxed up to 60%. Your employer's taxed, you're taxed at everything you do. Sort of why we're still living in Obama's economy. But anyways, before I, go further into any more rant, I'm going to go ahead and pass the microphone back to the Prodigal Hill, and we're going to do a little education lesson on, what it is you want to discuss today. And I'm willing to learn from you, and I appreciate it. And I love your channel, man. Thank you for having me on.
Appreciate it, man. Like I said, starting to get back into this YouTube, making more videos on here. The platform is what it is right now. I'm sorry, Stephen. Sorry. It's exactly like you said, right? Whenever you're looking at Abraham Lincoln, everybody puts Abraham Lincoln on this pedestal, and they think that. And this is a discussion that I've had on my Facebook. If you're going to go ahead and share that this Facebook, maybe, some of you out there would probably want to go ahead and share this video with some of your friends. But Abraham Lincoln is put on this pedestal, and it's exactly like Stephen Rose said. The Civil War was not about slavery. And in fact, if you go back and look, with the Southern Compromise, the Union, the northern states were fully prepared to go ahead and make owning slaves a constitutional right before the Civil War even kicked off. It wouldn't good. Slavery still would have ended because you were heading on into the Industrial Revolution. why would you want to go ahead and invest in keeping slaves, mind you, to go ahead and, produce your cotton and whatever it is, your cash crops, your tobacco? Why would you want to, that you have to take care of? You have to feed them, you have to provide for them, you have to put roof on their heads, water, lodging, and stuff like that. They're gonna,
Facts.
you're gonna have to keep up with them. Whenever you're having all this technology that's coming out, like the cotton mill and stuff like that, that's gonna make your life a lot easier. And so, regardless, either way it goes, it wouldn't have mattered. Slavery was going to end. And in fact, it was actually Thomas Jefferson that ended up stopping the Atlantic slave trade. It wasn't even Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln didn't do anything for the slaves. Now, I had this discussion earlier at work and everything with some of my colleagues. And, one of them just so happened to be a black guy. And he goes, well, people say that Abraham Lincoln is, one of the reason why Abraham Lincoln is one of the best presidents, and then he just pointed at his skin. And I'm like, dude, Abraham Lincoln didn't free one slave. He didn't free one slave. He could have freed slaves in the North, but did he free the slaves in the North? No, he didn't. He only freed the slaves in the South, which was Donald Trump saying, oh, you know what? We're going to go ahead and free all the Uyghurs in China. You know what I'm saying? The Uyghurs that are in China, or the Muslims that are Chinese Muslims that work in the sweatshops. And that would be like Donald Trump saying that, but he has no authority to free the Uyghurs in China because he's not the president of China. He can't free them. You understand what I'm saying? And so, this is the misconception. The Civil War was fought over the moral tariff. Just like Stephen Rose said, it was a 68% tax on Southern goods going overseas. And this was the issue. 30 years before, South Carolina almost seceded because of the tax of abominations. The South had seen these taxes before. Everybody's like, well, the tax didn't happen until, it doesn't matter. They had already seen this tax with the tax of abomination. So the Southern, states already knew what was going to come. They knew that they were going to increase the tariffs, and they said, that's no way. It wouldn't have mattered if you would have offered slavery in the Southern, because if it was about slavery, then the South wouldn't have succeeded. They'd have never seceded because they were going to propose making owning a slave a constitutional right. Lincoln didn't care about the slaves at all. And you have letters to a Horace Greeley saying that if he could free all the slaves and keep the Union together, he would do that. If he could free half the slaves and keep half in slavery, he would also do that. And if he could keep all the slaves in slavery, he would do that, whatever it took to keep the Union together. Because it wasn't about slavery. It was about centralizing the authority through Washington, D.C. And, ultimately, you go ahead and look at the history of Abraham Lincoln, and who did he inspire? He inspired Karl Marx. This inspired fascism and communism. This is where the ideas of fascism and communism actually came from, was from Abraham Lincoln sending down those troops into the southern states. He went ahead and suspended habeas corpus, went ahead and took his political. He was he was the forerunner to Karl Marx. He was the forerunner to Lenin. He was the forerunner to Stalin, because he send people out to go ahead and arrest, his political opponents in Delaware and Maryland. He suspended habeas corpus. But they still say that Abraham Lincoln's one of the greatest presidents ever in history. What do you think, Stephen?
Well, I definitely think he was overrated. He also started the income tax. He was also, once he passed declamation, whatever you call that stupid bill, it was only to free the slaves in the South, but not in the North. And in fact, there was slavery still up in the North until about around almost the 1900s. In fact, Delaware, it actually was going to ratify from the Union in 1901. I think they did. And then they still had slaves up until that point. Now, slavery, in my opinion, was
the 13th Amendment.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just a misconception. He was going to send the slaves back to, what was it, Libya?
Yeah, Libya. I think it was Libya. He was going to slaves back to Libya, and in fact, that had a lot to do with his assassination.
Mm-hmm. Now, people say John Wilkes Booth was not half black, but you have reason to believe he was, correct?
Yeah, I believe that from what I'm to understand from people that were probably a little bit closer to the source material than I was,
Yeah.
Rest in peace, they're dead now, but that from what I'm to understand, and the reason why Lincoln was assassinated was because he didn't want to go ahead and federalize our economy, basically. He didn't want to go ahead and he didn't trust the moneylenders over there, which would end up, being, later on, this would end up being another administration's job is to go ahead and get them to go ahead and attach our dollar to moneylenders out there, which would hit our economy, which was be what caused your Great Depression and whatnot. But Lincoln didn't want to go ahead and back our economy off of the moneylenders over there in England. He didn't want to federalize our economy. He wanted to go ahead and keep our economy basically a national economy. He was going to start something called the Greenback. And ultimately, it wasn't going to work for those central bankers over there. These are the same child bankers that were over there that ended up collapsing the British economy with Lord Wellington. You hear this stuff a lot with the Mayor Rothschild, how they ended up collapsing. They ended up spreading what you call now, what you use all the time, fake news, psychological operations is what they're actually called. But, he went ahead and got misinformation out to the other bankers, and everybody was trying to go ahead and sell all these bonds, and he was just buying them up, and he ended up taking control of a lot of the banks and whatnot. And then ultimately Lincoln understood this, and he didn't trust it. And that wasn't going to work for them. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't going to work with the bankers. That's exactly why. Now, John Wilkes Booth, like Stephen Rose said, he was not a Southern sympathizer by no means. However, as Stephen Rose just said, he was going to send the slaves back to Libya. Or Liberia. It's either Libya or Liberia. I'm not exactly sure. But he had planned to send the slaves back over there on slave ships. The slaves back to Africa, essentially, is what he was going to do. And of course, John Wilkes Booth, being half black and half white, he still had some family that was in slavery. So some of his family members were going to get sent back. That's why he didn't want Abraham Lincoln to go ahead and send his family members back to Africa. And so essentially what happened was the Secret Service, which, pretty much control a lot of this stuff. It's that whole, inner circle, hidden hand bullshit that they do all the fucking time. Went ahead and allowed John Wilkes Booth access to the president, and they went ahead and took him out. This benefited what would later end up becoming under Woodrow's, where they would go ahead and federalize the currency. But Lincoln wanted to do the greenback. He was going to do a debt-free currency. That wasn't good. He had already centralized. The reason why Abraham Lincoln got put in was he was able to centralize authority through the DC. That's the whole reason what he was. And like I said, he was the forerunner to your Lenin, to your Karl Marx, to your Mussolini, and to your Adolf Hitler. And if you look at these first two, and whenever you look at how these political parties, like the Communist Party, like the Fascist Party, like the Nazi Party, a lot of these countries also had civil wars. And ultimately, this would essentially what would end up taking us from being a capitalist economy into becoming a fascist economy that we are right now. We're not a capitalist economy. A lot of people will say they're capitalists, but are they really capitalists? You know what I'm saying? It's still regulated by the government. And this was instituted because of the actions of Abraham Lincoln. So I'll go ahead and pass the mic back to Stephen Rose.
Yeah, and again, when we talk about the capitalist society, I mean, I know we're going to be going past the Civil War. You're probably going to go into the Federal Reserve Act that also was implemented by Woodrow Wilson. that also we'll go a little bit into that, but I do agree, the idea that big corporations, because a lot of people say, well, how can you say that we live in a fascist economy? I'm like, well, the idea that you could start a business and be taxed to death while bigger corporations get tax breaks and tax write-offs, and sort of like that alone tells you that they have what's called a monopoly. So how can I start a small business if I'm going to be taxed to death? That means that we just get taxed right out of the market. To me, that doesn't sound like a capitalist society at all.
It isn't. It's no way, because what a fascist economy is the fact that you still have private, business people owning private businesses, but it's regulated by the government. So the
Yes.
government says that, okay, well, Polston, you can go ahead and say, I'm doing Nike right now because of just, this is a discussion that we're going to have later on. But let's say I have Nike, right? They say, well, you can have Nike and you can go ahead and promote a tennis shoe. They may sit there and say, Scott Casey Gale can go ahead and do Reebok as an alternative to my Nike product. And then they may go ahead and say Dark Horse, but Stephen Rose, you can't do that, because that would jeopardize the economy. And, if you put it in there and you're able to do it cheaper and you're able to make a better product, well, then all my workers will be put out of work. It doesn't matter that they could go and work for you at your company, and you may be able to find a way to pay them a lot better and, put out a better product. It doesn't matter. Yeah. This is why you don't get cures for cancer and all this other stuff, because they're a market and this is what fascism does. And like I said, ultimately to the fucking point, if you go back and look at it all, and you look at fascism, you look at communism, you look at all these governments that are they were foretold in the Bible. You just got to look at the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse: famine, war. They say that they're going here for peace all the time. They try to conquer and all this bullshit. It's absolutely insane. I was watching some documentaries this week on a lot of this stuff. And, a lot of this stuff started to happen because of the Civil War and Abraham Lincoln. The good guys lost. Let's just sit there and say that right now. In the Civil War, the good guys lost. You could sit there and call me a fucking the losing effort or whatever the fuck they call it now. But the good guys absolutely fucking lost. And the sheer fact is, a lot of this shit that we have going on today, the whole fucking calamity across the damn globe, a lot of that has to do with the centralization of the authority in D.C. and the Abraham Lincoln policies, which would eventually lead up to one of the guys that you just mentioned, Stephen Rose, and I'll go ahead and let you start off with this guy, which is Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah, Woodrow Wilson started, what was it, the
Federal Reserve
Act of 1913. People said that, well, Abraham Lincoln's income tax was abolished in 1872. But I still believe that we were using his income tax, like his actual, even though it was not, even though they got rid of it, we still had a national income tax, and it was almost like the same as Abraham Lincoln's, like hook, line, and sinker when it was reintroduced. And even during the Federal Reserve Act, when we started that up in 1913, that just basically like crippled our economy even more. Started taking value away from the dollar, and that slowly started putting our country in a fascist economy. That was probably the turning point, like the climax.
Right.
When we started, yeah. I'm going to pass the mic to you.
Yeah. What happened was Lincoln put the key in the ignition, and Woodrow Wilson turned the key and started to go down the road to fascism. That's exactly what happened. Now, at least one thing I can give credit to Lincoln for is Lincoln didn't trust the Rothschilds. He didn't trust the international bankers. He knew better to go ahead and get onto a debt-based currency. He wanted to go ahead and back our currency with production, labor, whatever it was. He wanted to back our currency. He didn't want a debt-based currency is what it was. He didn't want this at all. That's one of the reasons why they ended up having to take out Abraham Lincoln. It had nothing to do with Southern sympathizing bullshit. Then you get to Woodrow Wilson, and this is exactly how they end. Like I said, you look at the Bull Moose Party, like I said, between this time you had, a pretty good president that passed. And like I said, it isn't, most of your good presidents are Republicans. There's just no other way to put it. Um, the Republican Party is better than the Democrat Party. So
Absolutely.
worker rights and stuff like that coming up till now, where all these Democrats are trying to pretend to be progressive, they have no they have no clue what fucking being progressive is. They're trying to reinvent the wheel, and they see that this worked for fucking Truman, or this worked for uh, Teddy Roosevelt. This worked, and you see that they just try to emulate some of the Republican policies, but they do it fucking. They have no business trying. They try to present themselves as conservatives, but at the end of the day, they have no business doing that. So, like, whenever you had Teddy Roosevelt, a lot of like your 40-hour work weeks and your 8-hour work days, a lot of that shit with your 2 days, a lot of the workers' rights stuff was actually implemented by Teddy Roosevelt. Everybody thinks that, oh no, it was the Democrats that did all this stuff and they're the ones for the working. No, the Democrats have never been for you. They have always, every single fucking time, sold you down the fucking river. So, actually, it was on Christmas Day, I think it was, in 1913, that Woodrow Wilson went ahead. He implemented what would become the Federal Reserve Act, what would become the 16th Amendment, where he gave control of the United States dollar over to the credit lenders over there in Europe. This is what made your currency become the world reserve currency. And ultimately, like I said, you go back, you look at the history of the Rothschilds and those lenders, those bankers and shit. And, they profit off of these wars, with Napoleon. And they end up collapsing the British bank where they took over the British economy. And Woodrow Wilson trusted these guys. Well, what essentially happens is you get a world war. And then Woodrow Wilson gets us into a world war.
Yeah, he gets us in World War I in 1914.
Right. And
1 year after the Federal Reserve.
Right. 1 year after the Federal Reserve, you get into another war, which is exactly how the fucking damn Rothschilds took over the damn British. That's how they collapsed the fucking British economy. And you go back and you repeat the same fucking mistakes that they did in England with these motherfuckers.
Facts.
So, everything's all good because guess what? You have this war economy. You have to create war this, war that, guns, ammos, all this shit that you're creating. That costs money. Well, guess who's lending this money out the whole fucking time? It's those international bankers over there in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
It's not immediate. A lot of the shit takes a little bit of time. Particularly whenever they've already hijacked our economy. Well, they call in all those debts, and just like happened in England, all them banks started to collapse. Everybody was afraid that everybody was going to withdraw their money and that all these banks were going to collapse. Well, you have your Great Depression.
Oh, shit.
So, we come in, this was blamed on Herbert Hoover, but if you go back and look at Herbert Hoover's history, Herbert Hoover did a lot of fucking shit that I don't agree with neither. But you go back and look at Herbert Hoover's history, right?
Yeah.
And as far as being able to logistically, he was probably the best president that we ever had logistically until that debt hit. When that debt hit, well, the Democrats hijacked got back in again with Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And this is where you started to get your entitlement programs, your socialism started to be implemented, which is the groundwork for trying to go ahead and convert this into a communist country and whatnot. It's state control is what it is. It's that whole idea of, you'll own nothing and you'll like it.
Yeah, facts.
They don't do it all at once. They don't fucking come back and just say, hey, you know what? We're just going to take over. That's not how they do. They don't come in with guns. They come in as your friends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All of a sudden you start getting your Social Security, and you start getting your welfare, and you start getting, all these policies. I think it was actually Kennedy that did Medicaid, but stuff like that. You started
Yeah,
getting,
yeah. Kennedy did Medicaid, yeah.
yeah, you started getting these social programs coming in and laying the groundwork, because ultimately you had a lot of people that were out of work. They, needed a job. They needed money. They needed and handouts and whatnot. So ultimately, you started, they started going that direction, laying the subtle groundworks of communism and whatnot. But what do you think of FDR? Because, later on, FDR gets us into World War II.
Oh, yeah, FDR does get us into World War II.
Yeah.
Now, many people said that World War II was what got us out of the Great Depression. Now, you're probably a little bit more familiarized in this area than I am. Do you believe that, or do you think that was all bullshit?
I believe it gave people meaningful employment and whatnot. It gave people more jobs. It opened up the job market, because this is the thing about, like, especially like with communism, right? Communism relies on war to go ahead and fund the market. They're not coming up. It's not capitalism. You know what I'm saying? Stephen Rose has an idea. He wants to go ahead and invest in that idea. Like, say, maybe a car that's going to go ahead and run on water. This is one of those things where it's like a hydro running car that runs on, water, basically, essentially. They're not going to do that. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get cures for cancer. This is the problem with fascism. It's controls the market. So there's a market around cancer. They built up this whole market around cancer. So, ultimately, you're not going to get a cure for cancer because there's a market around it, and they market off of it. And that's how fascism works. It's got to control the economy. So if you have a big economy built on cancer, you're not going to get a cure for cancer. If you have a big market, built around, gas, oil products, you're not going to get an alternative to gas. And that's just it. It doesn't matter how much you go out there and cry about climate change. It's not going to change until we go ahead and change our fucking government. And then we can go ahead and go back to being a capitalist economy where we can get more innovations. This is why Scott Casey Gill in the comment section just said that President Reagan was one of the greatest presidents. It was because of the tax cuts. It's because we got a lot of innovation under Reagan, a lot more of the cell phone that I'm using right now. Your laptop that you're watching this on, the cell phone that you're watching it on, is all a product of Reaganomics. You know what I'm saying? That voodoo economics and the tax cuts that Reagan got. Because this is what started off a lot of the innovation, which would end up becoming a lot of it would go to Silicon Valley, where, people were out there making a product, trying to go ahead and gain some sort of profit off of that so they can live a better life. You know what I'm saying? And you don't get that in fascism. Fascism has to control the market. So this is why you don't get that. Now, on the other end, with communism, the only way that communism's economy ends up is by war. They profit off of war profiteering. It's that military industrial complex that people have been telling you about since fucking World War II, where they were profiting off of the war, selling off on both sides and shit like that. And so, however, this is not a real profit. This is all smoke and mirrors. You know what I'm saying? Because you're borrowing money, you're printing out money, leveraging your dollar, because, like I said, it is a debt-based currency. You're leveraging that dollar, you're printing out more of that dollar at your people's expense, which makes it, less valuable. And then ultimately what ends up happening is whenever they start calling in those debts and you don't have the GDP, the materials to go ahead and back that dollar, that's when you have, like right now at this administration, and it's not only just Joe Biden's fault, it's also Trump's fault, and it's also Obama's fault. Our debt to GDP ratio is like 124% debt to our GDP, which is absolutely fucking insane. It's higher than it's ever been. This is why a lot of people are telling you that we're probably going to end up going into a fucking another Great Depression, only this one's going to be globally. This is why they're trying to get us into fucking World War III or a civil war or something. Is because they're irresponsible. Nobody nobody wants to go over there and hold any of these motherfuckers accountable, you know? But at some point in time, we got to hold these motherfuckers accountable because it's going to be at your fucking expense. But it is what it is. But, I do think that had a lot of people getting employed. So you had a lot less people that were unemployed. It helped a lot with the employment. I don't think it helped our economy in the long run. And this is what caused the recession. And this is why I say that Nixon was probably one of the best presidents ever. But I'll go ahead and let you go ahead and tell me what you think about FDR and getting back into the war and give your side of it and what you think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. FDR put us into World War II, essentially. And like I said, essentially screwed the economy up for the most part. Now, I know it did open up the job market, but like I said, nobody really likes war. And I think that we need to find, other ways that we can become effective in the job market without necessarily having to, to get into war. And to be honest with you, I mean, I know a lot of people say FDR, they kind of say, oh, any president who puts us in the war is kind of one of the greatest presidents of all time. I'm like, not really, because FDR actually, he wrote a lot of policies or passed a lot of policies in place that gave bankers more leverage against the will of the people, like by allowing them to hire, to increase interest rates and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he really did. He really did. And a lot of people regard him as one of the greatest presidents ever. But was anything but one of the greatest presidents ever. Which, we'll go ahead and get into Richard Nixon, right?
Yeah, go ahead. Because like I said, my phone kind of blacked out for a second. Sorry about that. But like I said, he actually gave more power to the banks, FDR. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, he gave a lot of authority over the banks.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of your stuff right now, which, fucking Social Security, which the Democrats are still like, it's a popular program, understand it. That's just always what the fuck they say. And they don't understand the damn program is about to go belly up. If Bush would have, which, you can sit there and think about what you wanted to Bush, but Bush was right about Social Security. Nobody's trying to take your Social Security away. That's money that you've already invested. We just want to make sure that it's still there by the time you fucking retire. And you're not going to be able to get there by having these fucking numbnuts sit here and run the economy because they can't manage their fucking ass from a damn hole in the wall. And, the government has never been responsible. They've only ever required on taking more of your fucking money and giving you less, giving you shit. That's what they do. And this is why the fascist economy is not as good as the capitalist economy, but not as bad as the fucking communist economy, which the fucking commies over there will call everybody fucking fascist. But that's because you're fucking commies and you're just as shit. You can't, this platform is a perfect fucking example. We used to be able to come out here, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on YouTube or whatnot, we used to come out here, have a good time, joke around, have a lot of fun. There was more organic interactions. You'd have Dark Horse, Wrestling Jesus, Big Kev. You'd have, D-Town and Stephen Rose over there and his clique, and Simus and various other content creators, EDP, Drew Splits, and all these people used to come in here and we used to have fun, have a good time. Yeah, we would troll each other and shit like that, get into feuds, do a little bit of works for you guys, get a little bit of buzz or interest going into the product. But then the fucking government takes over. They pass the HR 5181, and guess what? Everything starts to suck. There's almost no organic traffic on any of these sites, and this is exactly the kind of shit that the fucking commies pretend like this is a quality product. It's not a quality product. If you would go back to flipping burgers or stuffing fucking burritos over there at fucking Chipotle, where you came from, then maybe the shit would get back a little bit. But no, people believe that, oh, you know what? We need to have a fucking taco stuffer as fucking senator of New York and have her come out there and talk about, oh, we need a Green New Deal because you read fucking Great New Deal in a history book and somehow you think that makes a lot of sense. And this is kind of where we're at today. So, well, I went on my little tirade right there. You know, we come back, you know, we have a lot of different wars being started. And mind you, you look at World War One, we already went, that was Woodrow Wilson. Not to mention that Woodrow Wilson had the Democrats that were in power at the time. They got us into World War One. They had the majority in the Senate and in the Congress. Then you get into World War Two, which FDR had the majority and the Democrats, and were in charge of Congress. Then they get us into Vietnam, which the Democrats were in control then, right? Seemed like whenever we would have peace, the Republicans were in. When we were trying to build the economy up, the Republicans are in. Whenever we go into these fucking wars to go ahead and devastate an economy, because war is not going to go ahead and build up your fucking economy unless you become, you just start taking land like the fucking, like the other world powers did, like the Romans or the Greeks and stuff like that. You go ahead and start taking conquest and say, you know what, we're just going to go ahead. We're going to go to war with Germany, and Germany is now going to be the 51st fucking state. It's not going to produce anything. You're not going to get anything out of it unless you go in there and take over other resources. This is the only reason why you go to war. So, but the Democrats and the commies and the stuff like that, they use war to go ahead and do that in military industrial complex. And then you build up debt while you're in war because you're not collecting any resources. And in fact, you're diverting those resources that you do have. This is exactly why you had famines in Russia and China. This is why the Soviet ended up collapsing, is because you go ahead and investing those resources from agriculture into fucking your military and shit, your industrialized shit. And so you're screwing over the agriculture just like the fucking North did to the South. They're always screwing over agriculture. So then we get in a guy that is legitimately considered one of the worst presidents in history, but that's absolutely the exact fucking opposite. And this is in Richard Nixon. So what's your first thoughts on Richard Nixon? Because I know that you went to school. So what do they teach you in school about Richard Nixon, Stephen? Are you still there? Hello? Well, the one thing that they always teach you about Richard Nixon is that ultimately, Watergate, that's the only thing that's where the buck stops. They say that Richard was responsible for Watergate, and that's absolutely it. They never tell you, and this is exactly why the Republicans ended up becoming essentially what you would consider the Democrat Party. This is why they started winning the electoral landslides. This is why they started winning the popular votes with your Richard Nixons and with your Ronald Reagans. Richard Nixon beat McGovern 520-17. It was an absolute one-sided fucking melee from the Republicans, from Richard Nixon all the way up until Bill Clinton. And to be honest with you, Bill Clinton would have lost by even more than Dukakis did had Ross Perot not gotten in. So the only way that the Democrats could win up until the 90s, into the 90s, the only reason that Clinton could get in is if they split the vote. Because if they didn't split the vote, the Republicans would have a monopoly on this government for 20, probably even 30 years, depending. But ultimately, what Nixon did was he ended up getting us out of Vietnam, which was by this point in time, after the Democrats got us into World War I, they've got us into World War II, they've got us into Korea, they've got us into Vietnam. They're going to war with all of these, and they were setting up the blocks. And if Richard Nixon doesn't win in 1968, you would have had a World War III. In fact, you go back and look at the Kennedy administration and the Cuban Missile Crisis. They were that close, and that the whole thing is they romanticize the shit in these documentaries and these movies. They romanticize the shit. They make it seem like, oh, they were so courageous, but the whole fucking time they're admitting that they almost got us into a nuclear confrontation with the communist powers in the Soviet Union. It was this close. Like, they were dropping, actually, it was on my birthday, October the 27th in 1962, 61, one of those years, real early in Kennedy's administration, where they were dropping these charges and whatnot. Well, there was a sub down there, a Russian submarine, that thought they were being, they were launching on them. And it was really close. If that Russian submarine doesn't make the right choice and decide not to launch its nuclear missile because they thought they were under attack, if he doesn't make that choice to go ahead and have that restraint, then ultimately you probably end up into a nuclear war, because they go ahead and launch a nuclear missile into Florida. And I think that's one of the reasons why Kennedy was killed, because I don't think that Kennedy wanted to get us into World War III. I think he was hesitant about that. And now there was a lot of people that had a lot of issues with Kennedy, and it was this real team effort by those parties that were generally invested into going ahead and orchestrating a World War III. They would have rather had Johnson in there over Kennedy. So, Johnson decided that he wasn't going to run again. Nixon wins, over the following year, saying that he was going to get us out of war. And that's exactly what he did. And in fact, it was Richard Nixon that improved the relations with both China, Russia, and a lot of these communist countries, that ultimately he ended up setting up the foundation that ended up collapsing the Soviet Empire. Do you know what I'm saying? So whenever you're comparing Lincoln to Richard Nixon, it's not a comparison at all, because if the Democrats would have been in, you could sit there and say what you want to about Watergate. Why the fuck would Richard Nixon have to spy on a trash-ass party like the Democrats that are completely psychotic, that are still trying to get you into World War III today by saying that they want to go ahead and get into a war with Russia, and they're not even fucking communist anymore? It's absolutely insane. This party is absolutely insane. So, I mean, yeah, you know what I'm saying? You had all them years, and just like Scott Casey Gill said, you have Nixon. They set up Nixon. And like I said, did you like Gerald Ford? I believe Gerald Ford was a pretty decent president, and clearly America did too, because the Democrats had to pull a lot of shit, and Gerald Ford was still pretty close to beating Jimmy Carter. I don't think that Jimmy Carter was that horrible. I believe he's kind of like Biden is. He's just a guy that they put in that he essentially didn't have any real power and whatnot. They knew that they weren't going to be able to do the kind of shit that they were going to be able to pull with an FDR, with a Woodrow Wilson. Those days are fucking gone. You having that much trust as an FDR where he could win back-to-back terms, which, there's no telling how much you had to go ahead and set that shit up. But, it was a different country. For you to get the FDR administration, which, like I said, was absolute garbage. But the reason why a lot of people voted for FDR is because of a lot of his entitlement programs that are starting to collapse the economy today. There was no real answer. You know what I'm saying? They sold us out. The Democrats sold us out, and they've been selling us out to the, government ever since. And like I said, it would have been World War III had they went ahead and continued that run. But we go into Ronald Reagan. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, the Reagan tax cuts, which, Reagan did a lot of bad stuff, but none of them are perfect. None of the, Nixon did some bad policies as well, particularly in healthcare and whatnot. A lot of your stuff regarding healthcare, that makes your healthcare so expensive, a lot of those policies were passed under the Nixon administration and whatnot. And it's the same thing with Reagan. But Reagan did set up those tax cuts, which ultimately ended up inflating your economy. Your best years that you had with your most productive that your society would ever fucking become was because of the Reagan tax cuts. And you can't sit there and Democrats, we've already proven that your fucking Keynesian economics under Obama is no answer to the fucking Reagan tax cuts. It doesn't work the same. You can't print out fucking bunches of fucking money and expect everybody's going to live equally rich, but you can be equally poor. You know, and Bush for what it was, you know, making the deals with the Saudis, which, this is basically off of Nixon's plan, you know, putting us on the petrodollar. Nixon had to put us on the petrodollar because there wasn't enough gold in our, because whenever you start to have these little socialist programs like you have with your Social Security, with your Medicare and Medicaid that were implemented under JFK, when you have all these federal programs and shit that the government uses to go ahead and, you know, that first off, a government dollar is worth less than a capitalist dollar. A government dollar, a socialist dollar is worth less than a capitalist dollar because you don't get any quality, you don't get any value. There's no innovation in a socialist dollar, but there is innovation, there is quality, there is high productivity in the capitalist dollar. This is why this is why tax cuts are a hell of a lot better than stimulus money. You know, the government just putting out money to give you is just you're putting out more money to chase less product. It's not a solution, and it's never going to fucking work. But Democrats will try to pretend like it works, you know, and this is why right now, both parties are probably not exactly what we need in the society right now. Reagan was a guy. Yeah. Are you back?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I was listening. Go ahead, continue.
I was going to say that, you know, it's just, so we'll go ahead and get into Obama. What did you think about Obama, Stephen? Are you still
Well,
there?
obviously they built him up to be the cult of personality, but I believe the first term that Barack Obama won, I do believe that he won it by the popular vote. I question the second one, however. I do believe that he started, the first thing he did that I didn't like was he started defunding the military, and he closed up a lot of military bases, including a Loran station that one of my brother's friends was at in Cape May, New Jersey. And so when he essentially started closing up all these military and stuff, it really left us vulnerable to other countries. Obama said he was there for the black community, this and that, but I really felt like he did more for other groups outside of our country than much less he did for the people here, much less the black community. I think black people saw right through that bullshit and knew from then and there how full of shit he was. You know, he also raised our taxes. He took Convention of the States away. He was all for centralizing the government, you know, the DC.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, he didn't do really anything for this country. In fact, we're probably still going through his inflation right now. He actually signed in the bill 5736. Yep. Which was the propaganda bill, like with the whole Russian, China, you know, disinformation crap. And that was the start of the attack of our freedom of speech, you know?
Yeah. Because, you know, guys like me, whenever he passed that in 2011, yeah. And so, you know, a lot of the old YouTubers and stuff like that used to come out here and do the news and I did a little bit of everything, you know, I was doing, you know, but, you know, at the same point in time, I was covering a lot of the stuff that was going on in society with your BLM bullshit and your marches and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. FDR screwed it up.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you know, whenever he started to pass that propaganda act, a lot of people were sitting there telling you, a lot of this shit is propaganda. They're using it as fear tactics to go ahead and scare you so they can go ahead and pass the policies that they wanted. They even admitted this shit. It's not a conspiracy theorist. You know, this isn't a conspiracy theory. This is actual legislation that they've passed to take advantage of. They didn't pass the shit just because. No, they passed the shit because they planned on taking advantage of it. And that's exactly what they did. And they still use it today with your fucking commie cough and your fucking election stuff. So, you know, going out, one of the things, Stephen, are you still here?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So, one of the things that Obama passed as he was leaving, because we were profiting off of a lot of this shit because you had the mainstream media telling one side of the story, and then the internet was telling the truth at the time. You know what I'm saying? And people were going ahead using it to go ahead and get views and followers and to go ahead and effectively change minds. And look at Barack Obama and the Communards in a entirely different way, saying how these people are toxic for you. Well, Obama had to pass another bill, right? HR 5181. You want to go ahead and tell them about that one?
Which bill is that again?
HR 5181, the Counter Propaganda Act.
Oh, that was May 10th of 2016.
Yeah, because Donald Trump won the 2016 election because of what everybody considers now on what's left of the internet, right? What they consider now the culture war, because we were fighting a cultural war at the fucking time. Obama had, you know, cultural revolution with his BLM, with his LGBTQ, with a lot of these entertainers that were in Hollywood, with a lot of his media sources. They were coming out saying that all these people that are Republicans, we need to go after them. Whitey's the devil, and, you know, Black Lives Matters, and we need to go after the police, and we need to go after the military, and all this other shit. And it didn't work because you had people like myself that was prior service that, you know, was working like you're in security right now.
Facts.
And, you know, coming out, doing videos, you know, countering their fucking propaganda is what we were doing. So they were getting their ass kicked. They were getting their ass kicked with memers, with YouTubers, with people that were just coming out and generally combating all their propaganda, what we were doing. And they were losing. Actually, they lost. It's not even that they were losing. We ended up getting a Trump administration that they couldn't, they tried to rig the vote. Don't get me wrong. Hillary Clinton didn't win the popular vote.
No, she didn't.
And they knew this. They see the algorithms. This is one of the things that I follow is the algorithms. I don't care what fucking MSNBC polls say. I don't care what Fox polls say. I don't care about your, you know, 435 Prime poll or these various other generic ass peer-reviewed study motherfucking polls that you have. I don't give a shit. I look at the algorithms. I see where people are going, what people are interested in, and as a YouTuber, you kind of do the same thing, Stephen Rose. Whenever you see people talking about something, you jump on, you do a video about it. And
Yeah.
this YouTubers look at is what the internet wants. They look at what you want to see, what you want to hear about, and what
Facts.
you covered. Now it's kind of hard because, you know, the internet isn't the same as when we were on it. You know, you would get a buzz about it. People would be talking about something. You'd be the first one out there to cover it, and you'd get views off of it, and that's how you did it. Now they took that away, and the reason why is because the Democrats were getting their ass kicked. Your mainstream media was getting their ass kicked on these fucking networks. So they went ahead and passed a federal bill, basically your HR 5181, the Counter Propaganda Act. That you want to go ahead and explain it, Stephen?
Well, basically, it's for misinformation. It basically is almost similar to 5736. The only difference is now this attacks independent content makers. And so now, like if I was to say, for example, that the elections were rigged, like just hypothetically, if I was to say that, you can get flagged for that. Same thing for anything that they consider controversial. That's why when a lot of YouTubers who were complaining in 2017, 2018 about the whole ad apocalypse and look how strict they're getting, I'm like, well, you can thank the 5181 bill.
Yep.
That's the reason why. And wasn't that signed under Trump?
No, that was signed under Obama.
Oh,
That was,
signed under Obama. Okay, so Obama signed 5181, 5736. So basically, those two bills, and notice how he signed that bill shortly after his tenure was over.
yeah.
It was like, what a way to just kick the front door right in our nose as he's leaving, you know?
Yeah. Because essentially what they wanted, what the Democrats wanted, was Obama to be what Trump is right now. Because Trump is a cult of personality, and I'm not going to vote for Trump. I'm not a Trump guy. But with that being said, Trump is a cult of personality, and this is what they wanted Obama to be, and it collapsed right in their face because the Communocrats are too aggressive in their policies. I knew that the Clinton policies were going to fail. They thought they had a, you know, lame duck in Donald Trump running. They figured nobody's going to vote for fucking Trump. Hillary has been in the political arena for years. The Democrats are under a delusion that a lot of their fucking socialist programs that keep collapsing the economy are really popular. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants you to fucking nationalize the health care. Nobody wants that. We want affordable health care, and you know, there's much better options. And there were much more intelligent people on the internet that were able to go ahead and propose reforms and shit to make these operations and to make this economy run a lot better. Particularly YouTube, you had there was like so many better channels, but ultimately they started to replace a lot of us. And like I said, you know, I used to watch Fabian for Liberty, and I used to watch a lot of these guys, Russian vids and various other people. Storm clouds were gathering, and a lot of these people that were in the forefront of getting out accurate news and accurate information. Now everything's just like a goddamn, you know, reality show of fucking nothing but utter and unadulterated bullshit.
Oh, absolutely. And that bill killed it. So, like, when these YouTubers are bitching, I told them, well, what did you expect? If Donald Trump, when he was in office, should have repealed either bill, instead he spent much time bending to the Democrats with DACA, not, you know, putting in border security, starting the mandates and that whole thing. He's had 4 years, mind you, to put a deal together, and yet he didn't do it. And he could have actually repealed 5736. He could have said, we're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of 5181. And then he complains about his Twitter account getting suspended. I said, well, dude, you could have easily fixed that if you would have just repealed 5181.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could have done it.
You could have done it. You had the Congress and you had the Senate coming in for 2 years. Yes, I will say that Donald Trump did. I enjoyed the tax cuts just as well. But if you would have repealed H.R. 5736 and if you would have repealed H.R. 5181,
yes,
then you don't have the Russian.
Could have repealed it.
Yeah, you don't have the Russian bullshit that they tried to run with. You know what I'm saying? You don't have the piss dossier that they tried to run with Christopher Steele of fucking pissing Russian prostitutes and taking a dump and naming it Obama. You know, you got to sit there and question your fucking intelligence if you believe shit like this, to be honest with you. And Democrats understand that, you know, this is coming from a person that's an anti-federalist, which Stephen Rose said that he's an anti-federalist too. Coming from people that are independents that don't claim any bias, and I'm fixing to shit on Trump real hard right now. Whenever you go with these goofy ass fucking narratives that you're doing, you're losing anybody. You're losing the confidence of the normies. You're losing the confidence of anybody that's a constitutionalist. You're losing the confidence of those libertarians that you love to shit on any much. And you've marginalized your base right now. I guarantee you that only 6% of the population identifies as being a Democrat right now. Everybody, even if they fucking voted for fucking Biden right now, will not fucking admit to voting for Biden. And it's because the party is so fucking goofy. And right now, it's both parties that are not doing their jobs like they should be. It's almost like a fucking circus every time you go and look at these damn debates. And you watch these debates.
The debate's a clown show. Vivek Ramswani quotes Barack Obama, laughs it off. In fact, he wants to raise the voting age and says he requires people to take a civics test before voting. This is insanity. He's a Barack Obama 2.0. He's a clown. He wants to defund public schools and then put the money into children's accounts so they can attend private school.
Oh, he wants.
But we all know private schools are indoctrinated.
Dude, get this right here, because I want to get what you think about this. He wants to the age. He wants to set an age limit for how old you could be to get on the internet.
Yeah, at 16. He also wants to raise the voting age. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the dude's kind of a fucking clown. You know, he's a clown. Nobody's taking anything seriously anymore on either side. Like,
nope.
You look at Trump, you know, we were just sitting there talking about Trump. Trump could have went and build those propaganda bills. But you know what? He didn't. Did he fix your fucking election? Did he make sure your election was secure in 2018? No. The Democrats ended up taking over, and I guarantee you they were bussing people over in them districts, and they would do this shit on live streaming like we're doing right now. They would fucking bus people into these fucking districts to vote on Twitter. Nobody says anything about that. Nobody says anything. They rub it in your face because they think you're stupid. And so he could have went ahead and addressed that shit, but he never did. But I guarantee when the Democrats went ahead and took over, he was all about trying to get those red flag laws passed. He collapsed immediately on that DACA bill about border security. He had no fucking... He wasn't going to go ahead and do no wall. He wasn't. He would have at least bargained for getting a portion of that wall before he signed off on DACA. No, he passed DACA, then said, oh, well, we'll negotiate for shit later. Why would you go ahead and not negotiate when you're in a position of power? You see what I'm saying? So if you think that fucking Donald Trump is this big, grand conservative, no, he was a fucking proxy. He was supposed to lose to Hillary Clinton. That's what the idea was. They were going to go ahead and collapse the economy and find a way to get you into war with Russia and China, which everybody was calling me a fucking conspiracy theory whenever I started doing this YouTube channel back in 2012. Maybe I was in the fucking military. Maybe I had heard some rumblings about where they wanted to go with this military. Maybe that's had a big ass to this under Obama, qualified, lifelong military people.
Fact. Do you think the Republican Party's in trouble? I saw that debate, and Christie wants to go after the medical marijuana dispensaries and saying, oh, well, they need to pay their fair share of taxes, and I want to shut them down. I'm like, dude, you mean to tell me packing marijuana dispensaries in Colorado is more important than anything else?
Yeah, you have fucking Donald Trump over there saying Republicans want to go ahead and take away your social security. The fuck? That's a fucking left-leaning fucking commie-crats bullshit. You know, we're trying to privatize the shit, save the shit, and you're saying the same dumbass shit that the fucking Democrats are doing. So yeah, you know, nobody's taking this shit seriously on either side.
Yeah, and in fact, it's given even more reach to vote Biden the next, and I hate to say that. Yeah,
well, I told you what the answer would be right now if you want to go ahead and try and keep any kind of fucking this economy afloat. We just might as well as run fucking Joe Biden as another fucking lame duck fucking rubber stamp president, and then you vote Congressperson to be conservative. Listen to me very fucking carefully. You go ahead and vote for your conservative, and you vote that conservative into office, whether it's a Republican or whether it's a conservative Democrat like Joe Manchin. You know, you go ahead, we're going to vote for Ted Cruz. That's who we're going to fucking vote for because he's a conservative. He's done a lot for this fucking state. I don't give a shit what the people in fucking California say about Ted Cruz. I don't give a shit what the people in fucking Pennsylvania say about Ted Cruz. You don't live in Texas. And he's done a hell of a lot better than your fucking representatives, right? Like, you know, hard bastards. Like, I don't like Cruz. Okay. Your fucking congressman is fucking Fetterman. And you're going to sit there and talk shit about Cruz? No, you don't get to talk shit about Cruz. I get it, you're a conservative. You sit there and do videos exposing this shit, but you don't get to talk shit about my fucking congressperson when your congressman can't put a fucking sentence together. He sounds
Well,
like,
remember, he's lying Ted.
yeah. You know, you can't say shit about Ted Cruz because Ted Cruz has done a phenomenal job as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, everybody will sit there and talk about it. He's like the fucking Dallas Cowboys of fucking Congress people. We're going to continue to vote for him. We're going to be fans. But all of y'all are going to sit there and talk shit about Ted Cruz. It doesn't fucking matter. Ted Cruz is still getting a fucking check, right? And so, you know, whenever you have a damn Dianne Feinstein and a fucking Mitch McConnell over in that motherfucker, then, you know, it just doesn't, you know, you can't talk shit about Ted Cruz.
So let me ask you this: why didn't Ron Paul just run again?
Yeah, I would like to see Ron Paul be president. I think that ultimately, you know, they put a lot of fucking pressure on him not to run again, because Ron Paul probably would have ended up beating the fuck out of Barack Obama, and it would have been fucking crazy. That would have probably been one of those elections that they would have found hard to rig because Ron Paul wanted to go after the Fed, you know. But, you know, right now you got a bunch of fucking people that are not taking anything fucking seriously. So, you know, none of the fucking Republicans act like they're going to do shit.
And now it's all about who's popular and who's beefing on Twitter and all that. It's not even about who's running this country anymore. It's almost all these candidates are such a joke. They make Biden look like Reagan.
Yeah. Yeah. We can make Biden the most conservative president in history. Like I said, you vote for your conservative congressperson. You vote for your conservative senator. We've already got the Supreme Court. Then we can just start running in a lot of this shit. We can start running through fucking bills to audit. We can go ahead and start pushing for these term limits with Ted Cruz. And what's the media going to sit there and say? Are they going to do another fucking Russian hoax against fucking Biden? They won't even let you talk about his fucking dealings with the Ukraine.
Facts.
Talk about their crimes because they're fucking complicit in the shit. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, you just might as well just go ahead and run with fucking Biden and then vote your conservatives. That way they can write the legislation, they can get it passed through the Senate. Even if fucking Biden vetoes it, they can run it back, push it on through decades.
Well, do you think if Biden runs again, we can have a Congress and a controlled Republican-based Senate?
That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping what people are smart enough. If you're a Republican voter, this is what you need to do. You need to go ahead and vote for your representatives, for your Senate and your congressperson to be Republican or to be at least be conservative for conservative messaging. You know what I'm saying? Put them motherfuckers in. And then ultimately at the end of the day, you know, put Biden in. He'll be a lame duck president. Like I said, the Supreme Court's already conservative. So, you know, you get a Supreme Court Congress and you get a Supreme Court Senate. And then you'll have the legislative branch, you know, being able to pass the bills. Even if he rubber stamps them, you know, and does an executive order, they could still run it back up. And, you know, he can only do that so many times. And ultimately, it can go up before the Supreme Court. If it goes up before the Supreme Court, they can go ahead and, you know, say, hey, yeah, it's not unconstitutional. So, you know, it's probably a better way. And then, like I said, the media cannot attack Biden like they're going to do to Trump. This is what you're going to do, and they're going to get Trump in. Make no fucking mistake. It's going to be another 4 years of Trump. They'll get Trump in, and it's going to be the same old shit. They're still going to pass their policies. They're going to end up rigging the fucking midterms, just like they did in 2018. They're going to end up taking back over control. And then they're going to end up trying to keep from, you know, they're trying to pass the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Nobody wants to shit. Nobody wants to live under fucking this elitist fucking slavery bullshit. You know, it's not appealing to anybody. And it's not appealing for you. You know, we're not going to willingly do this shit. The shit could have worked before the fucking internet. You know, the Democrats controlled Hollywood. They controlled the media. They controlled these actors. And that shit worked just fine before the internet. Now you have the internet and you have Stephen Rose out here. You had Dark Horse, you have myself out here. And with you fucking suspending everybody and taking over the internet and going ahead and taking over these media sources, running these propaganda bullshit, you killed it with the fucking COVID bullshit. It's going to be interesting because they're going to try and do something here pretty soon. Coming into October, they always do some stupid bullshit coming into the beginning of the fiscal year. I keep hearing COVID. I keep hearing World War III, both sides. It's going to be very interesting because people are fed up. You're not taking any personal responsibility for the shit that you've done. You expect everybody to continue along this stupid fucking path. And people are getting tired of it. They're getting
And
fed up.
what do you think about the possibility of another shutdown? They've talked about that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to pull this off. Most of the people that I've talked to, and I don't know if you've talked to a lot of people,
Okay.
but most of the reaction that I see here on the internet is people are not going to comply.
I'm not complying at all. No.
I'm definitely not complying. I'm tired of the shit. Fix the shit. You fucked the shit up. And if you're not going to do that, then we're going to have to find somebody else that will. And mind you, that if we have to do it, it's not going to be pretty. And there's a lot of people that are starting to get their little ducks in a row.
Yep.
You keep hearing them talking about a civil war. It's not going to be a civil war. It's not. It's not going to happen. It's going to be a genocide. That's what it's going to be. You're going to have lynch mobs. It's not, we've said that, like Stephen Rose and myself want tribunals where you get due process and we can come up with something. Once it becomes a lynch mob justice, then there's no due process. That's it. You've had your chance. Once you've pissed off society enough to the point where they're going to go to the streets, when you've collapsed the dollar, when you've printed out all that money, and that dollar isn't, that bread goes up to 1,000, we still have we still have small arms in this country,
Facts.
And you've seen what happened in Sri Lanka. It's not going to be pretty, particularly for the people in the media. Like the mainstream media, are going to be the first ones. I'm telling you, the shit's not going to trend on Twitter. There's not going to be any Twitter.
Facts.
Be any YouTube. You're not going to see the shit live streamed on Facebook because that's
absolutely.
Nobody's going to sit there and coordinate their attacks for you to sit there and monitor. All right, these guys right now that are, a lot of people are right there on the edge. This is like the closest to like a global revolution that you're probably going to get. And if it happens here, then it's going to expand into your backyard. So you just might as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to have a domino effect. Yeah.
And so, when this happens, you're not going to have to worry about, it trending, insurrection like it did on January 6th. When the shit happens, it's going to be for real.
They're probably going to make up some crap. They're probably going to say, we're going to threaten the people with drone strikes if they don't disassemble,
No, it's not. You're not going to have that. You're not even going to know about it. People are not going to be able to get the fucking message of drone strikes. I'm telling you, these guys are going to be well prepared. A lot of these people have been preparing for civil war since Obama was in office. A lot of these people are military vets. A lot of these people are already staging. Because like I said, whenever I sit there and I look at maneuvers and I look at shit and I look at the directions that they're going and I remember the shit from whenever, because the military is only like 2.1 million people right now. And how many vets do you have? 18 million, if like just 10 million of those special forces guys and various people that were in intelligence and shit like that understand how these processes work. Mind you that, I was in logistics, you know what I'm saying? Whenever I was in the military, but whenever I was in the Navy, I was in propulsion doing, basically what would be considered robotics and shit. I was more of a troop guy that was out there hanging out with the guys, the Joes. But there are other fucking people besides me that are looking at the same shit that are going ahead and coordinating ideas. And like I said, I would never do a video on a real-time scenario on what I would do if the shit popped off, because I wouldn't give away my strategies. I wouldn't give away my position. Exactly I would, and they're not neither. It's going to be like it says in the Bible. You remember whenever Jesus says he's going to come back, it's going to be like a thief in the night. It's exactly what it's going to be. And a lot of you people that are extreme leftist right now, that are living high on the hog, you people that are in mainstream media, you people that were pushing this bullshit down our throats, you people that were, y'all are expendable. You know what I'm saying? You know, a lot of the people that work in the state, that work in these government agencies, a lot of y'all don't understand that you're expendable. And they're not going to come and stop and try and save you because they're going to be fleeing for their lives when the shit pops off. Because we'll just go ahead and take the MAGA base. If 1% of that, or if 10% of that MAGA base were to sit there and decide that they were going to go ahead, and it would be hard to go ahead and contain something like that because that would be 8 million people. And you're looking at 80 million people, and it may be up to 120 million. I may be lowballing the damn estimate right now. But I guarantee you that the MAGA base is the new Democrat Party. They're the new majority in this country. I'm not voting for Trump, and I'm not advocating for Trump, and I'm not supporting Trump. I'm only letting you know the God's honest truth is that his base is the cult of personality right now. It's the biggest base that we got. And it's bigger than the Democrats. It's bigger than the Republicans. It's probably bigger than the Democrats and the Republican base put together, to be honest with you. And so, you know, it's, you know, the more that they keep on pushing this shit down our throats, because like I said, nobody's on Twitter anymore. You know, I guarantee that this video is not getting any views on Twitter right now. Nobody interacts with anybody really that much on Twitter. You know, I'll go out there and I'll do a little bit of interaction. But nobody really interacts that much on YouTube anymore. Nobody really interacts that much on Facebook anymore. You might get a few reactions, but it used to be like, you know, you used to get a lot more reactions and we used to have a lot more fun. It's not that way anymore. So if you think that, oh yeah, you really have all this influence anymore, you don't have anybody here to influence. You know, I only have 2 views on this video right now. You see what I'm saying? So,
yeah, absolutely. Same thing on my channel. I can't get no more than 10 views.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, and that's because one of my viewers is here, but, you know, it is what it is. You know, it'll go up to like 3 or 4, maybe 5, but I can't get that many views. And I'm never going to get that many views anymore because the 5181 that you're talking about. But these people that are influencers are not really influencers. There's no real market for their shit that they're selling because they've suspended most of their markets on these platforms. And nobody's interested in the shit. Everybody's in the market of selling. Nobody's in the market of buying. And this is where we're at in this country right now, where there's no legitimate market. Whenever you start to print out all these dollars, whenever the price of everything starts to go up, whenever you have these people going ahead and trying to repeat the same process that got us into this, it's not going to work out so well. It's not going to work out so well. And right now they're desperate. They're trying to get us into World War III. We told them to fuck off. Trying to get us into Civil War. We've told them to fuck off. Now, you know, they shut down the economy with the commie cough, tried to go ahead and, you know, take over the medical industry, trying to assume control of that. You know, they created a medical apartheid in the 2020. And, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what they do here in 2023, going into the election year. It's going to be very interesting. They're desperate right now. They know they're on the losing side. I don't care about Hiroshima.
So do you think we'll have another shutdown?
I don't know. I know that they probably want to. And like I said, Hiroshima is a fucking left-wing fucking nutcase anyways. But, you know, it is what it is. You know, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to have a shutdown. I don't think that they can do a shutdown, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know Trump's been warning about it. He said it was coming this winter.
Yeah. But Trump's full of shit too. It's going to be hard to do a shutdown. I'm being real. You know, to me, it doesn't matter. You can go shit for all I give a fuck because, you know, these people
maybe Hiroshima, maybe that was that troll that came to our comment section and said, well, if Trump wins, don't come back. You go sit in the corner next to Biden.
Yeah, well, he's not the smartest fucking. He's not the sharpest fucking spoon in the coloring box. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure you could find a sharper spoon in that damn coloring box.
We'll just say he's not the sharpest tool in the shed. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. That guy isn't fucking carrying cancer anytime soon. So, yeah.
Are we gonna start? Hey man, but let me ask you something. So we're supposed to have the next political debate. The first one was about climate change. And I
Yeah.
wonder what this one's about. How many genders there are? Vivek says, "Well, there's two genders. There's two genders. I believe marriage, and there's only one guy, by the way. I just want to make that clear." Like he had some sort of cheat code, you know? Like, let me tell you a secret. There's only two genders. It's between us.
Well, see, Vivek is a fucking millennial, so fucking, the millennials are the world's worst about flinging shit on the wall and praying for it to stick.
Dude,
What he-
when Chris Christie was like, "You said they're quote Barack Obama," he's like, "Yeah, I'm the idea, man."
You can't be a Republican nominee. I guess I'm going to put some support behind fucking DeSantis, because while he did do some questionable policies in Florida, for the most part, he's the only one with a fully functional brain so far on that stage.
And if Vivek's like a cheap Barack Obama ripoff, but he makes Barack Obama look like the next like what do they call him? He makes Barack Obama look like the next George Bush or something. Just
Fucking Vivek is like fucking bootleg Obama.
dude. Did you see DeSantis? Did you see him? He got owned by Vivek Obama, and in fact, he was like, "Well, I don't see why China and Europe to step their game up and give Ukraine some more weapons. And then we'll cut our weapons down by a third." I said, "Well, that's the end of DeSantis there for me."
Yeah, that's probably the one that's the only like Republican that I think only makes any real sense.
Yeah.
Vivek Ramaswamy, that's what they call him, Ramaswamy, because he made all that money off of the fucking putting in big pharma. He put all that money into big pharma and fucking cleaned house on it. So
Ooh.
he's probably trying to go ahead and repeat. He probably wants another fucking shutdown so he can make another fucking $1 million off of fucking big pharma bullshit.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then he's over there on Hardball with Chris Matthews, a fucking Commie-Crat show, talking to Al Sharpton. Well, how do you feel about getting into this election with, being an underrated politician? And then fucking Al Sharpton's like, "Oh, you gotta know, I have 30 years of experience as a politician." It's like, oh, fuck. The dumbest fucking shit.
Didn't Al Sharpton try to run one time?
What's up?
Didn't Al Sharpton try to run one time?
Yeah, that's why he was talking to him. And, yeah. But nobody's going to fucking take Al Sharpton seriously.
Let me ask you this, though. So who do you think wins the primary for the Republicans?
It's going to be Trump.
Wow.
They're sitting there running with the fucking stupid, and I may buy one of them damn fucking sports cards or the fucking little trading card of Trump with his fucking mugshot on it that they're selling. Mm-hmm. Not because I'm supporting fucking Trump, because I want to have something from right now in history to sit there and show people how fucking dumb everybody was. Because they're not going to fucking arrest Trump. All right? The shit is show. It's fake. It's bullshit. They're not going to arrest Trump and put him in jail and shut down the whole fucking jail. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So put the shit on TV for all these people, these desperate housewife motherfuckers that watch the shit like the Kardashians and stuff, and watch the trial. They're going to fucking live stream the shit on YouTube because YouTube can't get shit for views right now. Dude, I'm telling you, man. If you go ahead and type in like Tim Pool or something and you try to look up a video, fucking Young Turks comes up at the top and they can still only crack like maybe 400,000 views for the high. They're not getting shit for views, but they're put up at the top of the fucking algorithms. That tells you people are not coming to this motherfucker to watch the shit anymore. You should be embarrassed.
Yep.
Don't you wish that don't you wish this fucking video would get put up at the top of the algorithms?
Remember, we used to be an independent platform.
Yeah. And like fucking with your David Pac-Mans and fucking your Sam Cedars with their fucking million subscribers and shit. On my old channel, I used on some of my videos, I would get more views on some of my old videos on that channel than they get right now. And I only had like what? No, I might have had about 12 or 1300 at the time. I was getting pretty close to 1500. My channel was pretty close to yours at one point in time, and then but they're only getting they would get less views than some of the videos that I did, particularly whenever the election started off with like my Standing Rock shit. I was getting videos, I was getting like put out there quite a bit for a while, but these channels that have like millions of fucking subscribers, I'm sure you've got videos on this channel, and I'm sure Stephen Rose has videos on his channel right here, his channel over here, right? Yeah, he's probably got videos on his channel right now that he put up before the HR 5181 got passed, that has more views than David Pac-Man, and David Pac-Man has 2 million subscribers, supposedly. But YouTube kind of fucked Pac-Man at one point in time because, they stopped, they stopped showing his views and stuff like that. And he would drop a video and it would only really get about 2,000 views. And with fucking 2 million subscribers, he was like, well, here's the deal. YouTube is not showing my videos to my subscribers. You know what I'm saying? And he tried to put it off on YouTube, not getting his videos out to his subscribers, that they were blocking the views. But it was only his channel. No, I don't know what it was, but ultimately they were showing your true views. So like those guys really only get about like 2,000 or 3,000 views really per video. The rest of them are, bought it, or, people going over there. People stream through, so it's like 15% for them bigger channels. For like TYT, whatever view count they get on a video, that's only 15% of that's actually organic views. If you're scrolling down, you'll get a view. If people sit there long enough and look at another video and your video's playing in the background, you'll get that view if it stays there long enough. And so, it's only like about 15%. They don't get that many views, dude.
My bad, Prodigal. I'm here. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So, anyways, man, I'm fixing to go ahead and wrap this video up.
Yeah, let me go ahead and wrap it. I appreciate you for having me on, man.
All right, yeah, and that's Stephen Rose. You can go ahead and sub to his channel, Stephen Rose. The link will be in the description. But y'all people, tell us what you think. What do you think about the economy right now? What do you think about our history and how we ended up getting here? And what do you think about, like we said, what are they going to do for the October surprise? We already know that they're trying to get us into World War III with Russia. We already know that they're trying to push another commie off again. We know that they want to go ahead and shut down the economy, which is going to come more stimulus, which is going to ultimately end up screwing you over, collapsing your dollar. You think that gas price is high right now. It's going to get even worse if they go ahead and do this. So what do you think is going to happen? You people, tell me what you think. If you like, subscribe, do the shit the internet tells us to do to get over. And for now, we're out.